Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Let's Talk. I am so excited to host my dear friend, Jessanne Lichtenberg. Jessanne is a PhD student in the Biomedical Engineering program. How she does it, I don't know. And she has also published two great articles that I would post the link in the bio. On that note, let's make welcome Jessanne. Welcome, Jessanne.
Hi, Emelia. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So I would like to begin with if you can share what has inspired you to pursue a career in biomedical engineering. Was it a dream you always had since childhood?
As a child, I definitely was interested in math and science. I actually thought that I wanted to become a doctor because I think, that's kind of what most kids are told, if you like math and science, you're like, oh, be a doctor. But I realized later that instead of treating sick people and kind of making diagnoses, I wanted to more of understand how diseases work and aid in their prevention. Um, and so, that combined with the fact that my dad actually encouraged me to pursue engineering. Um, and because I liked math and science, instead of majoring in like straight science, he encouraged me to pursue engineering since it really combines both of those disciplines. And so I definitely thought that biomedical would be the best fit since it incorporated biology and anatomy and the things that I was already interested in. So I decided to major in biomedical engineering for undergraduate, even though I honestly don't even think I fully knew what it was, but I was willing to try it. And I think a lot of times that's just kind of how it goes. You try something and you either like it or you don't. But I ended up really enjoying it. And so, here I am now in the process of earning my third degree in the subject.
Wow. So you mentioned that this is your third degree. You have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and now you are pursuing the PhD degree in biomedical engineering. Did you always know you will pursue a PhD at some point, or it just happened?
I definitely did not always know that. And I would say it definitely didn't just happen either. I did summer research internships when I was an undergrad. And, that was a really great experience because it introduced me to, what it was like to work in a research lab, what it was like to work with graduate students, to kind of have like your own project. And, like I thought that was really fun. And then the advisor was like talking to me about considering graduate school. But then I wasn't really sure. I was like, I mean, it was fun to do for a summer, but did I want to do it for like, 2 to 5 years? Like I saw the graduate students that I worked with, and most of the time their experiments didn't work. They weren't always super happy because it's hard. And that seemed very daunting at the time. But at the, kind of similar time frame, I did a project in one of my courses on this really cool aspect of research called like organs on chips, where at this research institute at Harvard University, they were, developing these like 3D in vitro models to mimic different tissues inside the body and using them to, really progress drug development. I really thought that was amazing. And that really got me interested in thinking about graduate school. Like if I could do that kind of research, I felt like maybe I'd be happy as a graduate student. Um, and so, fall of my senior year, I applied to several PhD programs. I went through the whole process of trying to decide like master's or PhD. And I decided on PhD because those are typically funded. And I didn't want to take out more student loans than I already had for undergrad. Um, so I applied to PhD programs to universities that had like really cool like organ on chip labs, and I applied to 3 or 4, and I actually did not get into any of them.
Wow.
And so yeah, that was very shocking and very hard at the time, because I put all my time and effort into applying to PhD programs, and that was my plan for after I graduated, was to go to grad school. and for a while there, yeah, it was very hard because I wasn't sure then what I was supposed to do. So I ended up talking with the same advisor that I had, for those research internships. And at that point, he had actually switched universities. He had, started a larger lab at another university. And he offered me a position in his lab as a master's student that would be fully funded. And so that was just a really great opportunity, and he encouraged me, to do this 2-year master's and then reapply for PhD programs, because with the skills that you gain during a master's, you're really prepared to do PhD research at that point. And so, yeah, so that's what I did. So I went to Baylor University and I did my master's for 2 years there. And then I applied to PhD programs again. This time, it kind of coincided with some events in my personal life where I was engaged and my fiance was living across the country in Virginia. And so I was looking at PhD programs then in Virginia. And I found one, the closest one to where he was working. And I found some like research labs that were interesting. None of them was exactly what I wanted to do, but I was like, what are the chances I'm gonna move across the country, to the area where my fiance is living and, find exactly what I want to do. So I was like, okay, this will do. So I emailed with the graduate program coordinator and, he was talking about, how I could come and visit the labs and everything. And, he was like, oh, but, you really should talk with this one professor who we just hired. She is about to come and start her lab and she is doing like cancer on a chip, and so that is the exact type of research that I'd wanted to do when I was a junior in undergraduate. And so I met with her and we, had a great connection. And so, yeah, that is the lab that I'm currently working in. And even though the, path to get to where I am now was not always very clear and it was not exactly how I had planned, looking back, I can definitely see how God created the correct paths for me, and created the opportunities where I needed them and guided me to be where I am now. So
that is so inspiring. And I like how you tell your story of applying for like 3 to 4 PhDs and being declined of all of it. And then there is another door that opens for you to pursue the same program and with the research that you had been interested in all this time. And I know there is this adage that goes by that if you find a road with no obstacles, it probably doesn't lead anywhere. And so you already shared with us some of the challenges you had even during the application. Now, when you finally found a lab that does what you had always dreamt of doing, can you also share some of the challenges that you have faced along your career path?
yeah, first I say that that's a great quote. I don't think I've heard it before, but I will definitely remember it from now on. Yeah, there's definitely been challenges throughout my academic career. I think there's 2 in particular that I think of that are more of internal challenges, I guess, that I've had to continually work on, as a graduate student. The first is that I'm a perfectionist. And I mean, I think a lot of scientists and engineers are like, it can be great. But it can also be really hard when you're trying to do research because, 99% of the time your experiments don't work. There's a lot of failure in research and it really takes time to develop a thick skin to, learn that just because things don't work doesn't mean that you're a failure just because your experiment failed. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep trying, that your time is wasted, that you can't keep moving forward. And so, yeah, I've definitely just had to work on that just to accept that, things can fail and things will be okay after that. Second thing I would say is imposter syndrome. which is something I think a lot of people are talking about more now than they were a couple of years ago. And I know that I've definitely felt it. I feel like most people that I talk to have felt it at some point in their career. And, to combat that, I think the best piece of advice that I've heard is, not to feel like you're not as good as the other people that you're working with, or not as smart, but just to remember that they have more experience than you, and whether that's, experience in industry, experience in research, experience, with whatever subject material you're studying, just that, everybody has different levels of experience, different amounts of wisdom in different areas. And so that shouldn't be intimidating necessarily, but, we're all here to learn from each other. And so, like, we all have different things to teach other people, and also things where we can learn and grow.
Wow. So you kind of hit on this in the subsequent response that you gave, but I would like us to delve more into this. Amidst all the challenges you experience, it doesn't look like it has stopped you from achieving your dreams. You're still here doing what you'd like to do. So what has helped you remain persistent? What has kept you going? Like every morning when you wake up, what makes you want to do what you wanted to do amidst the challenges that comes your way?
Yeah, I would definitely say that as a Christian, one thing that's helped me remain persistent is my faith in God's plan for me. As I mentioned, my path to being a PhD student was not necessarily quick and easy, and not ideal, in the fact that, I was denied by several universities when I first applied to PhD programs. And but through that process, I've seen that, God has prepared a place for me in every step of my career. And I feel like, I have been exactly where I'm meant to be, and that I am exactly where I'm meant to be now. And so just remembering that, and just remembering that, God has opened this opportunity for me right now to be a PhD student in this lab doing this particular area of research. And so I really want to, fulfill my end, which is, being a hard, diligent worker, and giving it my all, and, trying my best to glorify God through everything that I'm doing. And then I would say the second thing that helps me remain persistent, is just thinking about the goals that I have for my life. When I was a senior in college, like 20 years old, I made this vision board at this leadership conference. And, the speaker said, think about where you want to be in your life in 10 years. So for me, that was where do I want to be when I'm 30? What are the goals that I want to have achieved? And so, that was in personal, kind of life goals, but also like career wise, and so one of my goals was to, I can't remember exactly, but, somehow like use my education and career to benefit others, through biomedical engineering or something like that. And so I really feel like I'm doing that now with my PhD research. And so I try and remember that, by the time I'm done with my PhD and I've moved on to whatever that next step is, I'm that much closer to kind of achieving this goal that I set for myself.
And do you still have that fishing board? You prepared for that?
Yes, I do. I still have it. It's right above my desk.
Really? Wow, that is interesting. I really like how you merge just your trust in God, and also how you set goals for yourself. I mean, both of them has helped you remain consistent, because it's like, this is what I planned, and this is the opportunity that God has given me. So I also have the responsibility to do the make sure that I am playing my part, and I trust in God that He would fulfill His promises concerning me. And I always say that the knowledge that God has positioned me to be where I am right now, and by continually depending on Him, and also having the assurance that whatever the purpose is, that he would make it end well. That alone is therapy for me, because there are a lot of things that go in for graduate school, and just even when you work in industry, wherever you are, there's just a lot of things. But I think that alone is therapy. And so I'm glad you share that with all our viewers. So to close the session, would you like to give any word of advice to other young people out there that are planning to pursue a career in biomedical engineering? Yeah, or people who have dreams of applying to graduate school to become a biomedical engineer, and just being open to some of those opportunities in the biomedical engineering field?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, if you're interested in pursuing biomedical engineering, whether you're like in high school now or already in undergrad, I would just try and get as many different experiences as you can in different areas of biomedical engineering, because it is a really broad field, especially if you're planning on going to graduate research. There's so many different things, you could do in biomedical engineering research. So definitely take advantage of, any internship or summer experience, or just like, part-time experience during the school year in a lab or at a company, just to kind of dip your toes into, whatever fields you might be interested in. Because I think you really just don't know until you try it. And so, you really just want to try all those different things while you have the time. And that can better inform, your career path down the road. And then the second piece of advice that I have is a little bit more general,
Okay.
but just something that I, try and think about, even when I'm making decisions now in my life. A lot of times it feels like, you're either choosing the right path or the wrong path. I'm sure you felt that too. Yes. If I do this, then everything will work out fine. And if I don't, then everything's going to go horribly, but really, all paths can be good paths. You can have like two very good job opportunities, and they can both be beneficial for your career. You can learn a lot, you can contribute a lot. Really kind of comes down to what you put into it and what you try and get out of it. And so, I'd say that, I think it's better to kind of reframe it to where it's not necessarily a right and wrong. But you have two choices, and they're, maybe have different outcomes, but that's not a bad thing. And also to remember that you can change paths, just because you decide to take this job in industry doesn't mean you have to stay there for 10 years if you hate it. Just because you decided to do a PhD doesn't mean you have to complete it if you hate it, after 2 years. Like you can leave the PhD program. And I know a lot of people feel maybe discouraged from going to graduate school because they feel like, if they go, you have to finish, but you can change paths.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this with us. And I particularly personally learned a lot. And so I hope our young viewers out there, or even the old viewers, like adult viewers, have learned some points from this interview, and also to inspire the younger generation to pursue their dreams and to remain persistent. So thank you, Jessanne, for sharing your experience and motivating other young people out there with your story. Check out Jessanne's LinkedIn profile to find out more about her research and all the cool stuff that she does. So we will take a break here, and in our next video with Jessanne, she will talk about collective cell migration in breast cancer. Link is posted in bio. Thank you for staying with us tonight, and I remain your host, Emelia. Let us enjoy science together.